And go.
Hi everybody, welcome to our very first live craft class at Adams County Winery. I'm here to introduce Andrea with A&M Growers out of Mechanicsburg and kick off the class for you today. We're going to be doing a live video, but we're also going to be sending the video out for you in an email afterwards if you need to rewind or look back on anything. Our very first step for the class, maybe one of our most important steps, is going to be pour yourself a glass of wine. To accompany your arts and crafts project today. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment. We're going to be trying to answer questions and help you out along the way. And enjoy!
All right, hello, I'm Andrea, and normally I start the class and say, oh, how many of you have been to a class here before? But I can't hear your answers, so maybe some of you have been and some of you haven't. If those of you that have, you probably know my daughter. This is Leanna, and she generally accompanies me on my wreath classes, and she is going to assemble one as I am going through the steps today. And I'm going to kind of take you through what's in your kit to start. A couple minutes ago we suggested that you put your sphagnum moss in some water. That helps it to expand and it gets nice and gooey, and you can't do this class without getting dirty, so it's going to make a nice little dirty mess. That sphagnum moss is in the bag that has a twist tie on it. So if you haven't done that step yet, you just want to put some water. I put a little extra water on it and it soaked it in after about 5 minutes. Now also in your kit is a bag that is tied shut. We had to do these different so you knew the difference between. Generally we just use the sphagnum moss. Of course I tied it really, really good, so it's hard to get open, but because supplies are a little short in a little hard to get right now with some of the items, and I was nervous about the supply of sphagnum moss, although looking in my bucket I think everybody's going to have plenty, but just in case I included a bag of, this is Spanish moss, and this is more decorative, like you wouldn't want this to be on the bottom of your wreath. The sphagnum moss actually will, it's more of a growing medium, it'll attract the water and get nice and moist. This is more of a dry, decorative thing that you would put on top of a hanging basket or a living plant, just for decorative purposes. And I thought you all might want to have some of this, and we'll see if we might want to use that on top of the herbs and wire it in. So we're just going to kind of do this as we go along. And then you'll notice you also have a bag of soil in your kit. This was also just in case. You may not need to use this in the wreath. And if not, it is good potting soil, fresh out of the bag, so you can use it in your garden or in a pot. But I thought we're going to start with the sphagnum moss, maybe put some soil down, and then our herbs. So anyway, that's what's there. Your wreath frame is a 14-inch wreath frame, a little bit bigger than we normally use, so your wreath actually will be a little larger. Now I'm going to go through the herbs that everybody got in their kit. For the most part, they're the same. A couple of you may have one or two more of certain herbs. Everybody has a golden oregano, which is a real nice full one. It kind of grows out to the side. Everybody has 4 rosemary plants, and if you look at them closely, 2 are, I'm calling this a darker green, but maybe it's more of a
Vibrant.
Yeah, more vibrant green. This is your rosemary barbecue, and that gets a nice straight stem, and you can use that with like chicken kebabs on the grill.
Ooh.
And this is rosemary arp, but rosemary is always one of our favorite herbs in these wreaths, so everybody has 4 of them. Everybody also has 2 of these silver thyme, and some of these herbs you're going to see, you might look at them and go, my gosh, they're so leggy. but we're using them in these wreaths, and I wanted to make sure they were nice and full. And the other good thing about that is as soon as your wreath's made, you can start snipping off and the herb will start branching out right away. But I thought I'd let that for you guys to do. And when I'm talking about leggy, I'm talking about these. Everybody has 4, at least 4. These are lemon thyme. Also another favorite. And they smell amazing. But there was no way I was going to cut any of that legginess off and take it away from your gorgeous wreath. Everybody has one of these little guys. When I found out we were having the class, I started cuttings of these. And they're a little slow to grow, but they are rooted and it will take off. This is pineapple mint, variegated pineapple mint. One of my favorite mints. So that's why you only have one of those. Now, everybody has one, some of you may have 2 of this mint, and that is chocolate mint. If you smell a leaf, you'll see it has a delicate chocolate flavor. And I do have 2 in my kit. And then this one's probably a little bushier than most of the ones that you guys got. Yeah, this looks a little more like what some of you may have. This is oregano, Italian oregano. So that is a great one for, of course, using in Italian dishes. Now, this is also a good example of what's going to happen when you do break a piece of this off. It's going to branch out all around. So maybe for dinner tonight, you want to snip the top of that oregano off. And then, last but not least, everybody has 2 of these teeny tiny little real smelly herbs. These are summer savory, another great one for cooking. And I don't use any sprays or chemicals on the herbs, but you want to make sure that you wash any herbs, of course, when you cut them for cooking. Okay. And the only other thing that everybody has in their kit is a spool of wire. We did unravel all of them to make sure that they weren't going to get caught, because you never know, and you hate a spool of wire that gets caught here. So hopefully we don't have any trouble with that. There's a couple that are new. Some of them are half spools. Any questions coming up on there that?
Not yet. I think we're doing pretty good. We just had one phone issue, and Sarah's running up to take care of that.
Okay. Well, then we are going to go ahead and get started. And like I said, I think as we go here, I'm going to give you just a couple options based on how far your supplies go, how thick you want your moss. But to start, we are going to attach the wire. And to do that, there's no trick to it. You just want to hook it in around 1, 2, or 3 of these wires and just twist it on. This is just for you to have a starting point. It doesn't matter if it slides back and forth. That is just fine. And we are going to use one continuous wire the whole way from the beginning of the wreath to the end of the wreath. And if any of you out there have taken this class before, you're going to see that I might be starting this a little different than usual for 2 reasons. The wreath frame is a little bit bigger, and because of the moss, I'm not sure how far everybody's will go. So hopefully you have your moss nice and moist. And I'm just going to put this between the 2 of us. I'm going to put the soil down here for you. We may have to put the other bag, your bag of moss in here. But when you start using your moss, you want to squeeze out the excess water, and you're going to make a nice layer, not real thick, but a nice layer on your wreath frame. And I forgot to tell you, you want to use your wreath kind of cupped like this. So you want to set it on your table with it cupped up. That actually helps it to hold in the plants and the moss. So the first step, we're just gonna, this will help you kind of measure out how much moss you have. You're gonna go the whole way around the frame. And if you start putting it on too thick, you'll have to just thin it out a little bit. And yeah, there's always these wonderful sticks in there. They don't hurt anything. I tried to pull a lot of them out when I was making your kits, but if they bother you, you can certainly pull them out. All right, so we're gonna work on spreading this out. And this is one of the, as far as wreaths go, this is one of the easiest and most forgiving kind of wreaths to make. So if you're new to wreath making, this is a great one to start with. Now look at that. You and I are almost both making our whole wreath. Now I'm putting mine on a little bit thicker than you are, and that's fine. You just want to have a base. This is where your roots are going to start to grow. And one thing I'm going to mention while she's putting her moss around is these are called wreaths, and they obviously are a wreath, but I don't prefer to hang them on the wall. You certainly can do that, but you want to be real careful when they're on the wall. The moisture tends to go to the bottom, so you just want to be careful about watering. The way I love to use these wreaths is as a centerpiece on a table, and the herbs grow around, and you can change it weekly, seasonally, however you want. You can put fresh flowers in the middle, or you can put fruit, or if you wanted to make a wreath in the fall, you could put gourds in the middle, or a poinsettia at Christmas time. So it's just a real versatile kind of wreath, and it should last for several months when you're done. But if you notice an herb isn't doing well, or it's starting to overgrow, all you have to do is pop it out of the wreath and plant it in your garden or in a pot, and it will just take off. I'm going to go ahead and put this other bag in here. But yeah, as you can see, we both covered our wreaths with 1 bag's worth of sphagnum moss. So that is what's going to, I'm going to let the next step up to you, but I'm going to show you 2 different things that you can do. Now we just put that in, there's enough water in there that it'll absorb that, and we're going to just let that soak up while we move forward here. Now, at this point, if you want to just give it a little bit more of growing medium, if you're afraid that maybe you don't have your moss thick enough, you may use soil and sprinkle a little bit on. Now you don't want to pour the whole bag on, you just want to, I'll do it. Here, I'll put it over here. Just want to sprinkle a little bit on to give it a little, and yes, this gets messy. Did I mention that this was going to be messy? I think I did. Again, just a little sprinkle. This is also going to give the herbs a nice little boost. This is ProMix potting soil, and has some nice nutrients to get plants started. Okay, you don't have to use the soil if you don't want to. Finish that in here. Give a nice little sprinkle. Okay, now on her wreath, I see just a couple places where the wire's showing. Now when we're all done, the goal is that you don't want to see the wire. We're going to cover it with either more moss, if you have plenty of this sphagnum moss. We've got 2 different kinds of moss here. Or we're going to cover it with this Spanish moss. And again, we're going to show you both ways. I think maybe I'll let you use the sphagnum moss on yours, and I'll use the others on mine. Okay, now, this is where I said it was different, because when I've done the class here, we kind of went 1 herb at a time and put it around the wreath. But today, now we already have this attached, so we know where we're going to start. I want you to kind of design your wreath by laying all your herbs in. And again, I think in the past, we maybe used about 12, sometimes 13 herbs. Each one of you should have 17 herbs. So you should have plenty. So those small ones, don't worry about them, they're going to grow. But what I like to do, I'm going to start with lemon thyme because it's what I have the most of. And these root balls are so tiny, you probably don't need to worry about breaking them up too much. But you can gently flatten them. And for now, we're just going to lay it right in the center and kind of nestle it in that soil and sphagnum moss mixture that's there. And then I'm just going to spread it out so I know how full it's going to be. Now, when I laid these out just to check things out yesterday, you can really put your herbs pretty close, but since we're not going to wire them in until we know where they all go, laying them out will really help. So just flatten. You don't want to, don't panic if you do rip a root, it's going to still grow, but you just want to gently flatten it. And you can see that you can kind of, I want to say zigzag, what am I trying to say? Offset the root ball of each. Like I'm just going to go to the right of that root ball. Next one I'm going to put on the other side. So I have a rosemary there. Put one of my mints in here. And you're kind of training them as you're laying them in the direction that you want them to grow. And when we do get to the end, I'm going to show you some of the long ones, how you can actually pin them in. All right, so I'm just kind of going through and deciding what I want where. Now a couple of these, this and the golden oregano, have a bigger root ball, so you might want to flatten it a little more. And you can already see
Oh, how pretty.
how full it's getting.
And in case you can't, it smells really good.
It does. Alright, I'm going to use this little guy. Oops, actually I think I'll use another. And you're going to see when we go back to put the moss on, you may have to take your herbs off, but we'll see how that goes. Because we're going to have to make sure they're all covered up then. But since the kids are at home with you and you can't say, oh, I put them too close, I want to come up and grab another herb. I just think this is our safest route for today. I'm going to put my favorite little guy in here. Trust me, he's going to make a splash in a couple days. And again, these guys are so tiny, but they are wonderful. And as you can see, I'm actually going to run out of space before I get around. And that will give you an idea of what you want to do when you do start wrapping your root balls. Alright, so I think I'll be able to just plan on moving them a little closer. When you do get to the end now, like I said, we're going to take some of these off to start our wrapping. But when you get to the end, you're actually going to lift up the stems from that first one and put the other one underneath. Look at that. I've got 5 herbs left. Oh, yeah, no 5. I thought that was its own. So I can even move some of these a little closer when we go to wrap. Okay.
See how we're doing over
Up
here.
with me over there. All right. All right. Very nice. Okay, so I'm gonna. No questions yet. We're good. Everybody's hopefully keeping up.
Yep, is everybody doing okay as far as speed? Let us know if you need us to go slow down or answer any questions, and otherwise we're going to move on to the next step. Look like you're good.
Okay. So I twisted it back around to where my beginning is going to be. And I like the order that I have my herbs, so I'm just going to, now the ones I'm taking off are from the end. I'm just going to take off maybe about half of them to start here. But I'm keeping them in the same order so I can just pick them up. The root balls are already flattened. And you're going, why did she have us put them on if we have to take them off? But we had to be sure that they were all going to fit right. Okay, you know what? I'm going to just go right to the beginning. Now, I am going to use the method of using the Spanish moss on top, and this is a more decorative look. Leanna is going to use the moss. So again, this all depends on how thick you made your base of moss when you first started. If you have plenty of moss left, you want to do the same thing. You take a small handful of moss and squeeze the moisture out, and then you're going to use it as a covering. And I may have even put too much in there. You want to put it right over it. Oops, the wire's over here. I'm going to move this over here because this is where you're, and I'm just going to do the first one for you, okay? So now that I have the moss around that, I like to wrap around twice, and then I pull, and then I wrap around again and pull again just to secure it. And now she's going to continue with this method. I'm sorry. What you want to do is make sure that you're always covering up the root ball of the one you've already secured in with your next plant. You don't want to find that you're tucking in the whole way around the wreath. You want to go the other way because you'll find it to be much nicer and you won't see your wire when you get to the end. Okay, so she's gonna, you might need a little more than that, but you figure it out. And you want to make sure you don't have any gaps in here. So tuck a little bit of moss underneath there. Perfect. And now you can go ahead and wrap that. Make sure that you're not seeing too much of the wire. It's okay. You see a little. And you want to wrap it around twice. And give it a little tug. You don't want to yank it so hard that you tear the root ball or anything, but you want it nice and snug that it'll stay on the wreath. Okay, well she's working on that. I'm going to show you if you wanted to make your base really thick and full and you're thinking you might not have enough sphagnum moss to get around on top of your herbs, you can use the Spanish moss. And this is a more decorative approach. It does look pretty. I think what I'm going to do is just put a little bit there. Make sure it's going to look nice and full there. And this Spanish moss really stretches far, like it doesn't take much to make a big splash. So I'm going to do the same thing, wrap once or twice, and then I'm going to lay my next one in, put my moss over. And the neat thing about the Spanish moss is it looks very cool, like you want those fun little ends to be sticking out. You don't have to worry about trying to hide them all. Okay, and I kind of like it, just adds a little bit of fullness to the bunches. Now I think since I had so many herbs left over as I go through here, I'm going to double up on a couple. So I have 2 root balls here side by side. And you could even do a combination of that moss and this moss if you wanted to on the top. Let your creativity flow. Alright, so you go in through here and just make sure I don't have any gaps. Gaps are not our friend in this wreath. And wrap both of these at one time. So as you can see, we're kind of encasing that soil. The moss has the bottom soil in the middle, and then this moss is helping to hold it in. I'm going to put this beautiful full one next. So you really get 2 different options on how your wreath is going to look. If you see any moss laying on the table as you're going along, you can just lay it back in your wreath. The more the merrier. I'm going to let this little guy poke out the side since he's one of a kind, and I'll give him a friend there. Again, you don't want to use too much of this moss. This is really decorative. It's just helping to hold things together, not really a growing.
We had a question from somebody who just joined, who wanted to know if you could just kind of recap quick how you made the base, whether you used moss and soil or just moss.
That you can do either one. Now what I did is I took my moss, and you want to make sure that's wet before you start. But I took handfuls of moss, squeezed the water out, and then I made a layer of moss the whole way around the wreath. And I said you can use the soil, you don't have to use the soil. I sprinkled a little bit of soil, not very much. You just want a little sprinkle, and you can see there's the moss underneath, a little bit of soil on top, and that just gives it a little bit of extra growing medium. And I don't know when you joined, but she is doing her top covering of her wreath just with the sphagnum moss, and I'm doing it with Spanish moss. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yes. And we will also be sending this video out to everybody who got the kit after the class as well. So if you need to go back and review anything, you'll have that in your emails.
And I gotta say, it is just so weird not being able to see you guys working and being able to come up and help you. But it's neat. It's neat that technology allows us to do this. Now I think I'm getting too carried away and I'm putting too many together, so I'm gonna slow down here a little bit. And I'll just put one rosemary in there. I thought I could maybe put side by side. So you'll see that it's just like putting a puzzle together. Oh, and that happens all the time. And I think my wire is a little bit thinner than what you guys have. If you break your wire like that, you just want to hold it on and wrap around a couple times, and you're good to go again. So no panic if that happens and you don't know your own strength. Flatten this guy out again, and when you flatten, you're just making sure that you don't have a root ball poking up above the general shape of the wreath. All right. You say you think you're going to be able to fit more when you... That's okay. If you're wiring in and you get to the end and you go, oh, I've got 5 more herbs, that's all right. We'll cover that then and show you how to tuck them in with just a little piece of wire. So no worries, there's a way to fix everything. I decided I'd put 2 here because I have this full spot here, so I'm going to make a little full spot on this side too. Just wrap this a time or 2. And if you get really frustrated and you think, oh no, I like the way it's going now, but I don't like the beginning, you can either tuck one in at the end or you can carefully untie it and do it again. All right. I keep knocking my soil and moss out, so picking it up and putting it back in. I will put, I'll put 2 together here. I hear so much laughter coming from the grounds. It's wonderful to hear so many people. Okay. I have 4 left. I think that'll work good. I think I'll put this tiny little guy with a net. And I may have missed this root ball, so I am just going to give it one more wrap before I move on. And when you get your wreath finished and you are curious about watering it, there's a couple ways you can do it. You probably won't have to water it much today, and it'll depend on your location, where you have it, whether it's in the sunlight. I think I missed that again. Not paying attention. If it's in bright sunlight, you may have to water it every other day. If it's real bright, maybe every day. Maybe once every 3-4 days if it's in an area that's not quite as bright. But one of the best ways to water, did you just flick soil at me? Is to lay it in a pan. This obviously isn't big enough, but you can get these trays at, like Home Depot or anywhere, wherever you can, any garden center. And then you can lay it there, fill it with water, and then put the wreath in it. You could always use that wouldn't be big enough, but any kind of a plastic container or a trash bag, and just put some water in the bottom and let it soak up water for about 10 minutes. All right, so I am getting to the end here. Now you see how I tucked that root ball under that first herb. And like I said, these herbs are going to take off. So if you have any bare spaces, that's okay. It just gives them some more space to grow. Now, when you finish, you've wrapped it around a couple times and you want to secure it by going around one extra time. Hold the loop up. Take your spool of wire around and then tuck it through that loop and then pull. Any sewers out there, it's just the same as how you would finish up in sewing. And now you see this is the only time we really needed the clippers or so far. And then you just want to stick the end of that wire in so that it's not poking out. And then you want to go around and you can actually fluff this out. And you're sort of going to train it how you want it to grow. Okay. Now if you see an area, I don't like the way this is flopping around and I want it to be right there. And all you want to do is you want to cut a little piece of wire and bend it to make just like a little U-hook, and you want to gently just push it down in, and that's going to train it to grow in that area. So you can do that, or you can let it be spraggly and open, however you like to do it. And I'm going to show you how to add in some more some more herbs if you want to. But this is what I was saying. If you can hang this up on a wall, you're going to have the moisture stay at the bottom, and then it'll get dry here at the top. And there's nothing wrong with it, but what you may want to do is turn it. As it grows, you may want to turn it once a week or every few days. All right. So Leanna got to the end of hers. She tied it off, but she says, oh, look at all these herbs I have left. I want to tuck them in. Okay, so when you're doing that, you don't want to cut too much wire. Maybe just enough to go around once or twice, just to twist it in. So where would you like your first one to be? Maybe over here, I see a little flat spot. So flatten the root ball a little bit, and then tuck it in there. And then if you want to put a little moss on top of it, cover it up. And then I see an area here that would be fun to tuck in with one of those little clips. And then you just want to use the wire and gently take it around and twist it onto the back. I wouldn't try to use a continuous wire at this point because you'll find that you're going to maybe take it right over stems that you're already finished with. And you want to let them be as free-flowing as possible. And all I did in the back was I tucked that wire back up into the wreath. Another one you'd like to put in? Okay, and put a little moss on it. The wreath looks beautiful. Are you guys all making out okay with the supplies? Wish I knew how many of you were using sphagnum moss and Spanish moss.
I've seen a couple thumbs up going.
Okay, good. Alright, so I knew you could do this yourself. I'm just helping you to twist it on just to show. So I twisted it around a couple times on the back. And then I cut it and pushed it in there. Alright. And you know what? If you don't want to use all your herbs in the wreath, that's okay too. You can use that soil that you have left over in a pot and make yourself a little herb garden. Alright, so any questions? And this might be a little weird, but I have a flat spot that I don't like. I could either steal one of her herbs or all of these, with the exception of, the rosemary is a little harder to root and it takes a lot longer. But like the mint and even the oregano, I could go, this looks a little bushy over here. Maybe I'll just cut some of this and I'll put the stems right in the soil over here. And in a couple days that may root. But you don't have to do that. That was just something fun if you want to try that. And I'm just going to help hold it down with a little bit of wire. Or I could have used that in my dinner tonight. And I'm not one that likes symmetrical. I like the natural look of it. But there you have the wreaths.
Okay, thank you everybody for watching. If you have any questions after the class, you can always respond to Sarah's email. She's going to be sending you out the videos and let us know, or you can email us at vintner@adamscountywinery.com and we'd be happy to help you out. Thanks everybody who watched, and thank you to Andrea, now your helper today too. It was nice having everyone out. Thank you.